Greetings. Welcome back to Ministry Monday. I'm Carlton, Coon. Every person who responds with an observation to this particular post is going to get a free version of my digital book, Fitly Framed. It teaches you about your personal motivational gifts and also helps us think about how we can fit into the body of Christ. This is actually what we use as our third level of discipleship instruction here in the church in Springfield. I want to mention my latest book, Light in a Dark Place. Light in a Dark Place has to do with encountering depression. Depression has been called the common cold of the mind, and while it's happening often enough to be quite common, the implications of the experience are certainly not something that we want to have become common to us. My own personal experience with what is now known as a major depressive disorder is the fountain from which this book is written. And I don't pull many punches. I talk about what it's really like to be depressed. One of the solutions, and I'm very solution-oriented, comes from Tom Barnes. He gave this to me many decades ago, where he would say that on days when he was struggling with melancholy, we didn't dare call it depression then, he would get up and give himself a good talking to, look in the mirror and say, now, Tom, you're not going to think that way. You're going to go ahead and you're going to do what you're supposed to do today and all of that. And I've learned that doing what Brother Barnes taught me actually works and makes a real difference, because it forces me to talk back to something that in many cases we simply do not respond to. I want every person in North America, every person around the world needs to read Light in a Dark Place. The book that I've written for general population, Light in a Dark Place. This is the most impacting of all. For that purpose, I discount it just now for $12.99. Now, let me get on to my real objective with you today. I want to talk to you about feeding the flock of God in a way that protects them and feeding them with protective intent. Intentionality means that we are doing something with the express purpose of an intentional outcome. Unfortunately, for many of us, and I'm included in this group, my that'll preach kind of sermons tend to be whipped cream. They tend to be things that I like to study, things that I like to present. It may well be praise and worship. It may have to do with simply being an evangelistic message. But people need to hear more than just what I prefer to talk about. They need to hear about having faith in difficult times, dealing with discouragement, dealing with the flesh, warring against all of the unclean things of our world. And so feeding with intentionality means that I give to them some material that is not simply fluff, but it has some real depth and dimension to it. It's the reason that I personally have a list of 20 topics that I try to preach about 2 times each year. I may enjoy preaching about praise and worship. It's a wonderful topic and needs to be preached, but it doesn't need to be preached 40 times in the coming year unless God is just expressly directing that particular message. Why is this so important? Because that relevant preaching and teaching that is consistent, that addresses the major issues of life, are going to address the destroyers that will come in and impact and affect the people of your congregation. For that reason, we as pastors, we have to identify and repeatedly identify the predators that would come in among us, the various expressions of it, the world, the flesh, and the devil, making people aware of those things and helping them to see themselves if those things are allowed to gain control in their lives. And so I want to encourage you to think about what you've preached over the last year, think about what you have in your mind to preach over the next while, and really kind of think through, now, am I providing a well-rounded diet that will prepare people for the difficult things that come in life and not just what we enjoy and what we rejoice about? Thanks. Remember the opportunity to get light in a dark place at a super discount just now. It's almost a third off. We handle all shipping, as always, here in the United States. God bless. See you next Monday.